everybody, and hello, Tessa. Thank you for coming on today. And today, Tessa, first of all, Tessa is a counsellor and a content writer, and many other talents that you have in there as well, which I'll let you go into a little bit more in a second. And today, you're here to share your lived experience. That starts with you feeling at one point like you were psychotic, but actually how one experience made you realize that that wasn't the case at all, and actually you're a mystic. And you've also got a beautiful poem that you're going to share with us towards the end of this, which I'm really looking forward to. Um, thank you so much for being here today, and welcome on, Tessa.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This felt like a perfect fit when you reached out, so I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
And just coming up there right now is I remember you're a poet and an author as well.
Yes, I am. I just this last spring published a book called Sacred Sanity,
Yep.
and a little bit about what my experiences that I'm going to share with you today.
Yep. And would you like to start? Where would you like to start by sharing your experience?
Sure. I think probably going a bit backwards. So I did spend a lot of time in my youth and early adulthood being suicidal. That experience was not new to me at all, experiencing the desire to no longer be here. And I think, a lot of times I spent my life thinking I was depressed. And sometimes I think it was really I was just paying attention to the world around me, and things were hard. I had a lot of trauma. And so mental health was always a struggle for me. That was not new. However, after learning to meditate and having some really expansive experiences, I began to think that I might be psychotic. And I ended up being psychiatrically hospitalized actually 8 years ago today, which is interesting. But anyway, so I was hospitalized and diagnosed with bipolar, and they said I had a psychotic break. And I was seeing things and experiencing things, and I truly didn't know whether or not I was a mystic or if I was experiencing psychosis. And so I spent many years training with a Sufi, as well as engaging with traditional mental health, and I was medicated for a period of time as well to get stabilized. And I do believe I was experiencing both, actually. There were periods of time where I couldn't sleep. So anyway, fast forward, I think it was probably about 4 years or so. And I had gone through a lot of spiritual training, learned a lot of skills, had a lot more science, a lot more silence, and a lot more peace as a result of these spiritual skills, working with a Sufi teacher. But I still was really struggling with a desire to want to live. I was having a hard time finding meaning in the work that I was doing. And then I was working for an ed tech company, and just wasn't really doing the work that I felt like I should be doing. And I was really down about it. And also was still experiencing things that my partner, who is an atheist, didn't understand. And so it was really difficult for me. I felt like maybe I really was psychotic. There was a part of me that I think still hadn't resolved that fear. And so I was contemplating suicide one day, sitting on my partner's couch in his office, and got up to I had a plan. I had been piling up some medications, and I felt really kind of at peace about it at that point. And I got up to go towards the cabinet, and I put my foot on the ground. And as I put my foot on the ground, I heard a voice say, "Nothing good will come from your death," which was completely opposite of what my brain was telling me. My brain was like, "You're worthless, and you can't." I'd had to go on short-term disability again because my mental health was in such a bad place. And so I was really down, and had been thinking that I was, a burden, and, that the people I loved would be better off without me. So I'd really convinced myself of that. But then that voice, it was the calmest, quietest, kindest, but very steady voice that said, "Nothing good will come from your death." And so I sat back down. And I just was like, wow, maybe I'm not psychotic. Maybe this voice is something more than than mental illness, and maybe these things that the Sufis have been telling me for the last years of training, that really I'm not unwell, and maybe really the voice within me really is a loving, caring voice that I want to know more about. And I've come to just recognize it's a voice that comes out of my heart, and it's always kind and loving.
Wow.
Which is completely opposite of what it's like when you're experiencing psychosis. After working with people for years in hospitals and settings, I had a lot of exposure to that. And so, yeah, I think it really made me start to see myself differently. And I'm just grateful that I had the training that I'd had from these Sufi teachers, as well as, accessing that voice in my heart, which is where the poetry comes from. And so I've been a poet since I was a little kid,
Okay.
like as long as I can remember. I've been writing poetry. So I'm grateful to my mother for her encouragement with that too. So yeah, so that's kind of the story in a nutshell. And so Sacred Sanity is a testament for me to put out there of, like, creativity and listening to that inner voice in your heart, and not always what's going on up here. Is really the Sacred Sanity is in the heart. So that's how I see it and how I live it now.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, Tessa. I can hear there's some really hard times in that for you. And there's that real, what was coming up for me in that is that real disconnect between your brain and your heart. And it's interesting to hear the completely different ways that you described them as well. The love that was coming from your
Mm-hmm.
heart. And it feels like there was that moment there where actually, can I listen to my heart rather than listening to my brain?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was just really a choice. It was a clear choice that day. And I chose to believe my heart and not my head.
And I mean, it really had got to the point where you had a plan in place. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of feels like that was a real last chance for you to listen to your heart. So it's incredible that it
Mm-hmm.
came at that time for you, that it came when you needed it most.
Definitely. Definitely. I'm grateful to be alive.
I'm sure many people are as well. And you're using that, and you're using what you've learned from that to help other people as well, and with your book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just don't want others to feel alone. And I think I was always kind of a mystical kid growing up, and I felt really lonely about my sensitivity.
Okay.
And so, and then growing into adulthood, I talked myself out of it, became very pragmatic and logical.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's just also a path of self acceptance. I think poetry really gave me that. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be here.
But yeah, you mentioned there as well that you were always mystical.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in that of maybe not listening to that part of yourself at first. And I did hear you kind of say earlier that kind of focusing on the outside world a little bit with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think as a kid, you get told, I mean, I was told by my mother, it's just your imagination. You just have a really wonderful imagination, Tessa. And there were other times where I had experienced things like after my grandmother passed away, I was walking behind my grandma to make sure she wouldn't fall over. And we were walking towards in my dad's garden, and I smelled my grandpa's cologne. It was Aqua Velva, clear as a bell. And he'd been dead for, I don't know, like 6 years at that point. And I said, Grandma, I smell Grandpa. And she's like, oh, yeah, me too. And so it's like, okay, so this isn't weird. And so there was a period of time where I had certain family members that were like, yeah, this is normal to experience people that have passed on. So I had kind of come to the acceptance that it was a normal experience. And then there was a point where it felt very abnormal. And so, and that was when I felt like maybe I needed help. So that was when I got mental health help. So yeah, and I just feel really strongly about, we need to make sure we're not pathologizing these beautiful mystical experiences, and having the right people around you
Yeah.
is really important. And yeah, I'm just having the right people is really important. So,
And
yeah.
that this what you just said about your grandma as well, and
Mhm.
your first thought after that was, I'm not weird. The important
Yeah.
in that I can hear the importance of the right people being around, and
Yeah.
your grandma really, I could feel the validation in that of
Hmm.
not being weird, but also the outside world kind of making you feel that way as well, making you feel like you were weird for experiencing.
Definitely. Definitely. I think I always carried that sense of being weird. Um, and, it's just one of those things where I feel like at this point in my journey, I'm grateful for my weird. I think being weird is what makes us unique. And um, being a little out of the ordinary isn't a terrible thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. It'd be weird if we were all the same.
Right.
In a way, yeah, yeah. That that there's so much in that for you as well of
Mhm.
starting to accept yourself and that self
Mhm.
acceptance coming in. That feels like a real important part of your journey.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's an ongoing thing. I don't know if there, at least for me, I don't feel like there's ever, I feel like I'm always a student and always kind of learning more about myself and learning more things to accept about myself. I don't, and maybe that's part of what's interesting about being a human being and being alive is that there's always something to learn about ourselves and always something, ways to grow and become more.
Yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
beautiful way to think. If we stop learning, then that's the end, then, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
really good way to think. And could you say a little bit more about your book and kind of what you get across in that?
Yeah, the book it starts out really with the mental health crisis of things, and talks a lot about sort of just the stories I was telling myself in a lot of the poems, and some of the traumatic things that I experienced. I was sexually abused when I was 13, and there were several other incidents. I lots of loss in my early adulthood. I lost my mother. I lost a man that I was in love with. I lost an aunt. I lost my grandmother, all consecutively within like 2 years, many, many deaths. And so it was a lot of it is also about my relationship with grief and how early on I was terrified of grief. And I compartmentalized everything to death to the point where I really wasn't experiencing a healthy relationship with grief. And so learning how to see grief as an expression of love and not something to be afraid of and something learning about my relationships with emotions and how I'd been conditioned to that it's not okay to be angry or that it's not okay to to be grieving, that you should get over it and that there's a certain amount of time and a deadline and all the things that our society feeds us about these things. I apologize, it's my dog Odin. But yeah, so I think the book kind of unravels a lot of the stories that I had told myself, and also towards the end is more about what my experiences with the divine, with whatever you want to call it, the universe, the energy that moves through all of us, that makes my heart beat, that makes my eyes glow, and so and how that relationship with that part of myself, the divinity within me, has really helped me grow and help me realize I'm not, you know, psychotic. I'm simply sensitive and tuned to a lot of different dimensions of the reality that we live in. And the Eastern views and things gave me so much clarity. Learning about Sufis and learning about, you know, and also some of the Western too. I mean, Teresa of Avila, actually my namesake. And so I think that the more that I got to understand and learn more from other poets, mystical poets, the more I realized that these experiences with the divine weren't a psychotic experience. They were something pretty holy, if I can use that word. Something that makes me feel at peace. Something that brings a state of calm like nothing else. So, yeah.
And that there's a lot of loss in your life in a very short period and a very early age there. And that
Mm-hmm.
relationship between anger and grief is very much together. It's not being able to feel that anger, or at least feeling like you can't, would be a huge and you know, of course you're going to be grieving with all of those things at that
Mm-hmm.
period in your life.
Yeah. And I think being a therapist at the time, I felt like I couldn't allow myself to truly fall apart because I needed to hold it together for the people I was serving. I went back to work the day after my mom died. Um, I had 3 days off to go to her service and come back and work at a brand new job. There wasn't a lot of time to fall apart. And I think a lot of people feel that way, especially in our industrialized world. It's survival. And so I've learned now that, I've had more loss since then, and it's carving out space, like even if it's just really early in the morning or really right before I go to bed, to sit and just feel.
Mm.
Because we live in this society where that is just not usually acceptable, especially in corporate society, working in a corporation and having feelings, you know? So yeah, so I think I had been indoctrinated and didn't really give myself permission. And now I feel like I do. I feel like emotions and feelings are all some kind of intelligence that we need to sit and be present with and listen. I need to practice what I preached to my clients, ultimately.
And going back to work so soon as well, and you said there was that
Mm-hmm.
societal feeling of get on with it,
Yes.
and there wasn't any time. How can you get on with it and sit with how you're feeling at the same time? It's
Yeah. 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 There wasn't. And I think I couldn't see time to be available. I mean, but I do think at this point in my journey, if I would have went backwards, there was time. You know, there was time. I did a lot of numbing, a lot of numbing. So movies became my favorite thing, and I still love movies, but that was my coping mechanism. That was how I coped and numbed out. Um, so I think finding a balance of what's beneficial for grief has been I think it's going to be a lifelong journey, because as long as I love, like I say in one of my poems, as long as I love, I will grieve.
yeah, and
And
that is grief, isn't it? Grief is love.
grief is love.
Grief
Grief
is
is love.
yeah. And you mentioned going into Eastern and Sufi. Could you say a little bit more about Sufi?
Yeah. So
Is that right?
the path. Sorry, what'd you say?
If I said that right as well, so it's Sufi, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Sufi, yes. So Rumi is the most famous Sufi in the West. We've had wonderful translations of his work, and I think people really resonate with it because of all the stories about love in his poetry. And so that's what a Sufi is a lover of God, a lover of the love that we call God love. That love is everything. And so for me, that's always been what God has been for me. I've always felt love in people's hearts, and that's been what God has been for me since I was a little kid. So when I was found by a Sufi, actually, right before I was hospitalized.
Okay.
His name is Fahim, lovely man, out of South Africa, and he had seen my poetry I'd been publishing on Facebook, and was very ecstatic. And he said, "You need a teacher." And I was like, "Oh, I'm fine. I've got God. I don't need anything." I was very high. Um, and then 2 weeks later, I crashed. And I went back and I said, "Yeah, I think you're probably right. I do need a teacher." And so the Sufis have probably the oldest psychology that exists, and it's the psychology of the soul. And they have really clear practices. It's very depending on the order that you go with. Some are more structured than others. This initial order, I ended up finding one in the United States that was universalist, because I didn't align with just being one religion at that point. I'd grown up Christian. Don't feel good about just having one religion. I feel all religions are beautiful. So I found a universalist path here in the United States. Found a teacher that I could go actually to his home and sit with him, and he was astrophysicist in his first career, and then he was a counselor in his second career. And his name is Dr. Zerwardy Gebel, beautiful man. And his presence, the love that would come through him when we would sit together, similar to what you experience sometimes with the unconditional positive regard you get from a therapist, that created that safety for me to really kind of untie all the knots of all the religious trauma I'd experienced, and all of the other traumas that I experienced in a safe space and container, and could be open about all my mystical experiences with him because he had a framework. So the Sufis have a framework for my experiences, which really helped me.
Wow. And so there's the similarities with therapy in that you're mentioning. However, there's a framework that's slightly different.
Yes. They offer different ways to open your heart. So often when you're in a state of distress, your heart's locked up. And for me, using different, what they call wasaiv. So it's kind of like mantra in yoga, but different sacred words that you chant. And the magic of those words, it's beyond my understanding, but being raised Christian and then having a Sufi chant Allah on my heart and having my heart open really felt like a miracle, because I was like very anti, because frankly, I was pretty Islamophobic prior to this experience because of 9/11, because of what happened in the United States with the terrorist attack. And so I had really struggled before this to even, think about the word Allah as a way to open my heart. And that somehow happened. So that was what was the catalyst for my journey into understanding more about Sufism and how that would heal the broken heart, open the heart. So, yeah.
I can hear acceptance yourself and others coming into that as well. And that really is an opening of the heart, isn't it? To understand something that perhaps you didn't understand before as well. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I know that you've still got a poem that you're going to share about your experience. I'm really excited to hear that. Are you ready to share that with us?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Over to you.
Spectrum of sanity. First, there was only light, pure seeing, pure being, before they taught me to fear. God flowing through everything, like electric honey, each soul's sweetness, a bulb in the cosmic chandelier, all of us connected, all of us shining. Then came the voices, the ones who'd crossed over, some gentle as morning prayer, others hungry as winter wolves. I opened my door to them all, not yet knowing that even sacred spaces need thresholds, need boundaries, need places to rest. Bliss became drowning. Divine light turned to lightning. Angels wore EMT uniforms, their halos hidden under fluorescent lights, as they wheeled me through hospital halls, where they tried to cure my seeing with careful measured numbness. They called it psychosis. This too much knowing, this too much feeling, this too much being. But how do you measure madness in a world that's forgotten how to speak with spirits, how to dance with God? Months of medication fog, sleeping through my own magic, until slowly, like spring thaw, I learned to trust again. The visions, the voices, the vastness within, not drowning but dancing, not cursed but called. Now I know I'm not broken but breaking open, not lost but leading the way, through ancient mysteries and modern skin, a mystic child grown, in their power, in their truth. I carry many names now: healer, therapist, poet, wife, sister, friend, non-binary soul in a binary world, queer spirit dancing between seen and unseen realms, each identity a facet of the same sacred diamond, reflecting divine light. This is sacred sanity, not the narrow path of normalized numbness, but the wide spectrum of wholly human experience. Learning to be both vessel and boundary keeper, both lightning rod and grounding wire. The chandelier still shines. I see it clearer now, through eyes that have cried rivers of healing tears. Each soul still glowing, connected in the great circuit of divine electricity. But now, I know how to carry the current. This is my truth. I'm not too much, not too open, not too feeling. I'm exactly enough, precisely what I was meant to be. A bridge between worlds, a translator of light, a keeper of sacred sanity. And in the end, it comes to this: love flowing through all things, even hospital hallways, even medication bottles, even the moments of doubt. God's light still running through every circuit, through every soul, through every story. For we are all that light, all that love, all that sacred electricity, learning to shine at exactly the right voltage for our particular bulb in the cosmic chandelier of being.
Thank you for watching. Seriously, it means the world to me and our guests that you took the time to watch. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it really does help the channel to grow. And equally, you won't miss what's coming next if you do that. The aim of this channel and what me and the guests are trying to do is we're trying to inspire, and we're also trying to give other people a sense of belonging. And at the very least, we're trying to make other people feel seen and heard. And that's our hope with this channel. If this video spoke to you anyway, then please do check out our other videos just here. We will catch you in the next episode.